Okay, we are good to go, as I understand. My apologies for the bit of delay. We had a little bit of a technical issue, a little bit of kind of getting people in order. But here we are in the November regular meeting. I would ask that we call the meeting to order. If we can begin with a roll call, and then we'll follow with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Kevin Collins.
Here.
Paul Gamrat, Mayor.
Here.
Valerie Renthaler.
Here.
Matt Castillo.
Here.
Diane Law.
Here.
And we have Norma Greco online.
Here.
And Adam McDowell online as well.
Here.
And President Council Jay Dorn.
I am still here. Outstanding. At this time, I would ask if you're able, you stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I haven't stood and done the pledge in here in quite some time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah. All right. A couple things real quick as we begin. First of all, just so that people know, on November 3rd, at the meeting, we did have an executive session for a quasi-judicial deliberation. A couple other points that I would make, today being the 8th, we know that Veterans Day is upcoming in a matter of a couple of days. As a veteran, I certainly extend my camaraderie to my fellow veterans out there as we celebrate that day. And for many of us, more importantly, somebody needs to mute, is that there we go, is that the day before Veterans Day, of course, is the 246th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. And so happy birthday to my Corps. Having said that, and that's why you hear my oorahs after every pledge. Having said that, we will move into our meeting. We begin the day as we always do. I'm sorry, with another announcement. With an interruption, and then we go on to what is the magic of public comment. And so I will turn this over. If you raise your hand, our borough manager is able to identify you. We'll call on you, and then we will give you 3 minutes. Please state your name, your address. We are happy to hear your comments.
Mary Ann Baker, please.
Mary Ann, the floor is yours if you want to unmute.
Okay, are we ready?
We are ready.
Great. Good evening, members of council, Mayor Gamrat, Mr. Robb, and Alex Graziani. I want to express my appreciation for the patience and understanding from everyone within the Churchill Borough organization involved with the Hillwood application hearing. The lessons, the structure, and procedures that have evolved from this experience will make the Churchill government and resident participation among the most inclusive in the state. That alone is a positive outcome. In particular, the phone notifications of the meetings so that those with limited internet access could also participate. It allowed all the residents to express their detailed concerns about this project and its likely negative consequences to the Churchill community. I want to genuinely thank Alex for helping solve the technical issues, especially at the beginning of this Zoom meeting experience. I'm grateful for his diligence in posting everything and so quickly to the borough website. And I want to express appreciation to Mr. Robb for moderating the process, who several times in the Hillwood hearing took the time to thoroughly explain the approval procedure. Certainly, whether council votes yes or no, there will be an appeal process and perhaps even further appeals. Applications like this take place all the time. What I am hearing in the community is that if Hillwood's application is denied, Churchill Borough or Borough Council, collectively or individually, may be the targets of lawsuits by dissatisfied parties, and that the concern or even fear over such lawsuits could influence council's decision on the matter. It is my understanding that there is an exclusive statutory appeal process available to any unsatisfied party to the council's decision, and that the courts do not permit lawsuits to circumvent the statutory appeal process. Could Gavin take a moment to explain that appeal process and help to clear up any misunderstandings about the borough or council's risks of being the target of a lawsuit? Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your comment. Again, these are valuable to us, and it's something that we may discuss after the comment period. Moving forward, who's next? Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Marion. Can you please state your name and address? We don't think we got it for the record.
Oh, Mary Ann Baker, 19 Churchill Road.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Murray Bilby.
Next up is Murray Bilby.
Good. For some reason, I've got the technical issues again. My camera's not working. Sorry, guys. All right. I wanted to say a couple of things. I agree with Mary Ann. The way that the hearings were conducted deserves some compliments to the borough. And in particular, Alex, who helped me a couple of times. And I know he helped a lot of individuals with their technical issues. And then posting everything so quick to the website. I think everyone then had quick opportunity, didn't have to depend upon their notes or their memory in order to come up with who said what and where. And it's a very memorable, and the way that Gavin actually went out of his way several times to help people understand what was relevant and what wasn't relevant was certainly appreciated. And so I wanted to add my comments as I emailed Alex today that I like the way the council, not the council because they're sitting there observing, but the way the employees of the Churchill Borough conducted these hearings. They were quite good. They got a lot of information out on for the public. Now, the one area, and I'm not sure if it was covered, and Marianne, I think, alluded to it, is what are the procedures now going forward? What's the next step? And regardless of whether it's yes or no, or what's that step? And then what's the following step? And at what point does it simply stop? Because what we need now is a roadmap to see what is coming down the road so that we can start thinking about those changes and get people to concentrate on the relevant data and perhaps even speed up the process. So if Gavin can put this in a perspective, I think it would be very useful to all the residents. And that's the first point that I really wanted to make. And I had a couple more questions that if we have a chance that perhaps we can discuss. And that's the area brought up about the perceived risk of lawsuits. And it's not clear to me that that's really a realistic possibility. I'd expect the current borough insurance policy to cover any unforeseen lawsuits. Oh, is that correct? I don't know. And I don't see any particular risk to individual council members from any kind of a lawsuit, as they're publicly elected officials. They're performing their duties. But I'm a little less clear about the borough and how a frivolous suit might be handled. I mean, in business, we get verbal threats all the time and occasional frivolous ones that just cost us time and money. But we very rarely have a real one going into court. I don't think it would apply in this case because there are well-established procedures that all municipalities go through. But I would appreciate some comments from Gavin on the potential risk of a lawsuit. And again, my compliments to Alex and the whole team in putting together, which I think was.
Thank you, Mr. Bilby. I hate to cut you off while you're complimenting Alex and Gavin, but as it turns out, I do stick to the 3 minutes, even when you're complimenting staff. I appreciate your comments.
I'm not sure I gave my address. It's 2424.
Yeah, about that. You got it. Thanks for covering the back end of it.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Kathy Bordner.
Next up is Kathy Bordner.
Oops. Okay, let's try that. My name is Kathy Bordner. I live at 1926 Hampstead Drive. I agree with Mary Ann and with Murray that we do need clarification of this issue about whether what the difference between the borough being sued versus the appeal process. But I would like to speak a little bit about the land development permitting process. And poor Mr. Rob, he's going to have to earn his salary tonight because I once again am asking for him to clarify that process. I would ask that instead of just giving residents who have questions about this process a link, that either Mr. Rob do this, or perhaps you can put it as an agenda item at a future meeting to devote some time to explain this process to residents. Many people are very interested in this application and this whole project. And I think that the borough, it's crucial for you to be transparent and to explain to the residents the land development permitting process. For example, I did look at a link that was provided, and it said that there may be public hearings. Will the borough hold public hearings on the land development permit process? If not, why? What is the timing? I've seen where Hillwood did, I think, submit an application, and possibly, I think it might have been last December. Are they going to have to submit a new application? Because that one would obviously be quite outdated. And basically, I would just like, will the council be voting on it? What is the expected timing of the land development permitting process? I think that I probably would have a whole lot of other questions, but I'm pretty sure that many other people in the residents in the borough also have many questions about this process and would like to have some time devoted to explaining it so that those of us who are civilians, who are not attorneys, who have not been part of this type of a procedure for like many of you have in the past, you can explain it to us so that we understand it. And I think that, that's about all that I have tonight. Thank you very much.
As always, I appreciate your comments. I'm going to move forward. And who else do we have? That is it?
Correct.
Okay, that actually concludes public comment. Some of those things, I think, as we finish up today, we'll try and address them at least to some degree. At this point, we're going to move forward onto onto the motions, beginning with number 3, which is minutes.
Mr. President, I move to accept the meeting minutes from the Monday, October 4, 2021, and the workshop council meeting and Monday, I'm sorry. Let me start over. I move to accept the meeting minutes from the Monday, October 4, 2021 workshop council meeting and Monday, October 11, 2021 regular council meeting.
Second.
Click on the second. Any discussion on minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the meeting minutes are accepted. Moving on to Treasury and Bills.
Mr. President, I move to accept the treasury report for the month ending October 31st, 2021. And also, I move to direct the finance officer to pay the bills for the Borough Churchill accrued since October 11th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Again, we've got Matt on the second gun. Any discussion? Always is a matter of process. When we have the payment of the bills, we make sure to discuss any amount over $15,000. This month, as you can see, we have 3. The first being to Alcasan in the amount of $162,521.54. As you see right there, it is the quarterly service due September 21st or September 13, 2021, along with the annual Thompson Run Interceptor maintenance. Then there is $51,470.59 to Gateway Engineers. And that's for the October 2021 Services, $27,594.29 being reimbursed through Hillwood. Then we've got the $16,504.52 from Vigliotti Landscape and Construction. And this is for our public works through October 2021. There are other bills, as you can see, and I will leave the rest open to discussion. Any discussion from council on paying the bills or on the reports? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And the reports are accepted without opposition. This moves us on to action number 6.
Okay, Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 4527 of the Borough of Churchill approving the Borough of Churchill fund balance policy. If I may read the purpose. This policy will establish the appropriate level of reserves which the borough will strive to maintain in its general fund. It will also describe how the capital reserve fund and operating reserve fund will be subsidized and express conditions under which these fund balances can be used. Annual transfers of unreserved funds will be done in a manner which will enable the remaining reserve balance to provide adequate cash flow and provide continuity of the services provided by the borough to protect people and property.
Second.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I think there is some discussion.
Mhm.
Diane, You
Mr.
before the-
President, I move to postpone the pending motion until the next regularly scheduled council meeting, December 13, 2021.
Move to table.
Yeah. postpone.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's a matter, I think, Diane, of clarifying some language.
Yeah.
in item 5.
Can I respond to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I apologize because I went over the proposed resolution in detail today, and I found a couple of things that I think really need to be clarified. And they have to do with the council's responsibility versus the manager's responsibility. And I think I, for one, need to go back and take a look at that language carefully, because I think that we have established a precedent that we should take a look at.
Quick question of Gavin, have you taken a look at this ordinance? Do you have any problems with it at all?
You're talking about the resolution regarding the funds?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I have not taken, I took a quick look this afternoon, but I did not do a substantive review of it, so I'd be happy to do so with council if you want
I
to
think
push
it's
that
probably a
back.
good idea to table it. So I move that we table this motion.
So someone else actually has to move to table the motion if we made the motion.
So Diane did,
she's
and
already
and I'll
moved.
second
I
it.
got it. I got it. She's already moved to table the motion. There's been a second on that. So the current discussion on the floor is whether or not to table, which is why we're having this. So is there any other discussion with regard to tabling the motion?
No, I do want to add that the finance committee, Adam, Val, we did take a look at this and we did approve it, but certainly willing to listen to reasons to change it.
And anything that would be difficult in terms of tabling, so there's no big issue on it.
Please make sure your mic is on when you're speaking, because it's not picking up everyone who was
That was
speaking.
my bad. Let me just say that now. But just as a matter of clarity, it's not an issue. So at this point, unless there's further discussion, all in favor of table? Aye. Opposed? All right, so we'll table that motion. The motion carries, and we'll move that till next month, and then push that forward at that time. No worries at all. That moves us on to number 7.
Mr. President, I move that we advertise the 2022 Churchill Borough budget for adoption on the Monday, December 13th, 2021 regular meeting of the Churchill Borough Council.
Second.
Not today, Matt, she said. Is there any discussion?
Just, I'd like to read the general fund. The beginning fund
Yes.
balance will be $568,905.78. Total revenues budgeted at $3,125,877.35. And total expenditures at $3,212,717.40 for an anticipated ending fund balance of $482,065.73.
You.
So again, Kevin, if you want to pull that mic over, that would be good. So in addition, just for everyone's knowledge, not only will be advertised in the newspaper for the December 13th adoption, but we'll have copies available at the borough, detailed copies of the budget, as well as detailed copies posted online. This is sort of the summary that we'll
Right.
advertise, but for much more detail, I can assure you can find it online or it'll be here at the borough.
Excellent. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a general question, I guess. I know there were some different options proposed. I mean, are we, I guess, saying a particular option that we're going to advertise or that just we're advertising in general?
So to be clear, Gavin, you can respond to this. An advertised budget allows for the council to make minor changes within percentages. So for example, if there was something that is de minimis in price or line item, it can be added or removed without re-advertising the budget. All you're doing is this framework at this amount is you can't change it significantly. And the borough code has those percentages and you want to keep track of that. So I know there's been discussion about various items and I'm sure the finance committee, along with the other committees, will fine tune some of those. And as long as we don't go out of the bounds set by the borough code, you may see, for example, the expenditures might be $3,205,900. You know, so it's a plus or minus percentage of that on both sides.
So as a follow-up, I guess, with that plus or minus percent, like, for example, one of the things that we talked about is possibly adding another patrol officer, police officer. I mean, is that something that would still be available based on what we're?
Included.
Yeah, that's actually within.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it should be discussed and vetted further going into next year, timing of that. And there's also in the budget another police vehicle.
That was so hard for you to say.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
But it is budgeted.
right.
It's still, there's reason to continue discussion. There's
Okay.
reason.
I guess one other question then, one of the things that was on the, I think there was option for adding police, there was option for some other compensation stuff. I think possibly compensating the borough council was also on there. Is that included as well?
I think we took that out.
Yeah, this particular number is minus, and I think it may have been $3,000 or
But
so.
for clarity,
Yeah.
the debate of the issue is not precluded within the advertising of the budget.
Correct.
So these are de minimis issues.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
it's not something that in either way impacts our ability to actually hold the vote and make the decision on what we want to do with that.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem at all. Any other discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries without opposition. That gets us through the motions of the day, moves into any general reports or discussion that we need to have with respect to any of the reports or any other issues that council wants to bring up. I would ask, not so much on the issue of land use, because I think that's something that's going to come up later in time. But there were a few questions, Gavin, that were kind of pointed our direction. Can you give kind of a brief answer to some of that? Is that acceptable?
Sure. I think I can talk a little bit high
Without-
level.
Yeah, but say without getting into the specifics of as we're in the process of deliberation.
Right. I mean, the first thing I'd point out is, a couple of the folks who, and certainly they're very valid questions, but those folks who are actually represented by legal counsel in this matter really need to be directing those types of questions to their own lawyers. But I can just speak generally, again, as to sort of our next steps. And I think as we laid out during the public hearing, the next step is going to be obviously for council to issue a decision on that conditional use application. Council has 45 days from the close of the hearing, which I believe by my calculation, or actually by Mr. Graziani's calculation, which I confirmed was December 10th, which means that, as we sit here right now, December 6th is the last regularly scheduled meeting that council would have to act on that application. There is a possibility based on due in large part to the scope of the transcripts and evidence and record that the council may request some additional time from the applicant, and the applicant's the only one that can grant or not grant that additional time. At this point, we have not made that request, but to the extent that, it would, at the very least, it might make things a little easier, especially with the holidays and just people traveling and things like that. There may be some additional time that's needed, but if not, if the applicant for some reason, for example, would refuse to grant that request, you can be sure we will be prepared to issue a decision within that time frame. I think there was a question as to what might happen after that. And again, just speaking high level, any party, any aggrieved party could file an appeal of the council's decision. So whether it's the applicant, if it was denied, the applicant could appeal that. If it was approved with conditions, but the applicant didn't like the conditions, they could appeal that. And if it was appealed with conditions and those were acceptable to the applicant, those folks who were, in opposition to the project would have an opportunity, if they were parties, to appeal that decision. So that's, and then, after that, there's a whole legal process that plays out. You start the Court of Common Pleas, it goes to the Commonwealth Court. If there's an appeal from that decision, and theoretically all the way up to the Supreme Court, if someone would take it that far, and the Supreme Court would be willing to hear it. With respect to the land development application, there are timelines set in the municipality's planning code, similarly to the conditional use application, within which council has to act on the application. Now, the application was initially filed back in December of last year, and the normal sort of path would be that the timing would be that council would have 90 days from the first planning commission meeting after the filing of the application. That starts the 90-day clock. In this particular instance, obviously, we're well past that, and that the reason why it's okay that we're past that is because we've received written extensions from the applicant, throughout this process, in order to make sure that there's sufficient time to vet the land development application, if we even get there. Obviously, if this conditional use application is denied, the land development application will be denied because the applicant has not met the zoning requirements. So the current written extension for this land development application expires on December 31st, 2021. And so if the application is approved, and the borough does plan to move forward with review in consideration of the land development application, we would request a further extension from the applicant to ensure that there's sufficient time, because I think one of the questions, I believe, was from Ms. Bordner, was how long might that take? And if anyone sort of saw the time and energy and efforts and resources put in to review the conditional use application, you could expect a similar level of engagement with the applicant and its experts and engineers and professionals through the land development process. So while it hasn't been determined whether or not there will be a public hearing, which, as Ms. Bordner pointed out, is optional for a land development application, my expectation would be that this would require, similar to the conditional use application, several rounds at the Planning Commission in order to sort of address concerns. Again, it's so similar process, but instead of the zoning aspect of it, this is the land development aspect of it. And it's more kind of the nitty gritty. It's the, the site plan, it's the, the real details on the stormwater. And also what sort of runs concurrently with that is the third-party approvals, which has been raised quite a bit throughout the public hearing process in the conditional use context, but really becomes more relevant when you're talking about the land development application. And when I say third-party approvals, I'm talking about things like PennDOT approving a highway occupancy permit. So, I think that's something that was a bit confusing to people during the process, because it did seem sort of conceptual in nature. And for the conditional use application, that's a fair characterization. Essentially, that what the applicant needs to prove at the conditional use level is that the plan could work, or that it's feasible, and that the concepts meet the criteria set forth by PennDOT and as vetted by the borough engineer and Allegheny County for that matter. When you get to the land development portion and you're talking about the highway occupancy permitting process, that's when you get down to the real details of things like turning radii and intersection improvements and road widening, those really important details that determine whether or not this thing would actually work if it goes that far. So PennDOT would be taking the lead on that highway occupancy permit process, but As you saw during the conditional use process, the borough engineer also provides input, and Allegheny County would provide input as well. Another example would be Department of Environmental Protection approvals that would be required. And Allegheny County Conservation District approval. So those sort of things are running. Those aren't borough approvals. The borough doesn't have control over those approvals, but any approval of the land development that would be issued by borough council after the process is vetted through the planning commission would be conditioned upon the applicant obtaining all of those necessary third-party approvals. And then similar to the conditional use process, planning commission will make a recommendation at some point. There will be either a meeting or a hearing where, the applicant presents before borough council, and council will either vote it up or down. And similarly to the conditional use process, any aggrieved party would have the ability to appeal that decision, and it does follow the statutory appeal process as referenced, again, I believe by Ms. Bordner or possibly Ms. Baker. Is there anything else that council wanted me to address on that front?
I think you have adequately covered it for the purposes of the questions at hand. There are certain things that are later in the process. So, and there's certain things that quite frankly, may not be germane to this space. But I think you've done an adequate job, and I appreciate that.
Quick question, Gav. Does the land development process start after all the appeals have been run the course, or is it concurrently with the appeals?
So that will actually depend on, like most things, when you ask the lawyer, right, they're going to tell you it depends, so that I can try not to box myself in and adjust on the fly. But for instance, if the application is denied, then I would expect that the appeal would be resolved prior to moving forward with the land development application. If the conditional use application is approved, it would be up to the applicant as to whether or not they wanted to proceed essentially at their own risk and move forward with the land development application to keep that process moving.
Thanks.
Excellent. All right. Anything else on that matter? Right. Any other committee reports or discussion? Righty. Any general comments that council would like to make kind of around the table to the public before we
We do. Just wanted to mention the Zoom link. It was something that we had shared earlier as we were looking at the agenda. Next meeting that we have publicly will no longer be in the webinar format. It'll be in the meeting format. In order to do that, Zoom requires we come up with a new link. So everybody's really got to pay attention to this and share far and wide, which we'll try to do with Facebook and on the web and everything else we can. But this new link, as it's seen on this screen now, will be the new one. Of course, our website will change. If you're used to getting to the meeting via the link on the homepage at churchillborough.com, it will remain the same. And so just want to make note of that, really important. So you'll be in a waiting room and you can be put back in the waiting room and come out, but you'll see once you come in yourself differently than the webinar format. And we ask that people remain muted, which they can unmute themselves at any time during a regular meeting. And if they don't mute themselves, we will mute them. And if that doesn't work, we'll move them out of the meeting altogether. It's a little different etiquette change, but you got a little while to think about it. And please make note that December's meetings will be on a different Zoom link in a different format.
Right. Now that the numbers on 190 people going.
We felt that the webinar format allowed us a little bit more tighter controls.
Yes.
And I think it did enable participants to both watch, but then those who wanted to speak to be seen and heard and share their screens and do other kinds of things. But we do appreciate, I think everybody, back at you to those who are complimentary this evening. The citizens of Churchill just conducted themselves very well in a very moving format that was hard to be agile to and adapted, I think, very well in sharing their information. So we're appreciative of that.
Yeah, and we have always been, fortunate that the citizens of Churchill have we've been through a lot of different stuff. This is a crazy thing, but even, people are respectful and they work their way through it. And, we've tried to do this the best that we can. I'm glad that people have have recognized that. It has its challenges. It was not without challenges, and I appreciate, you have been dancing on, on a razor's edge to make everything work all the time. So I'm glad that the residents are noticing that too, because you really have done a wonderful job. I'm sorry. I'll turn it to you now. How's that?
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this evening that you may have all been hearing more and more sirens recently. Our fire department is busier than they've ever been historically. And I just want to mention that for any of you who wonder, we have an all volunteer fire company and they have been doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to thank them, bring it to your attention and thank them publicly.
If you have time, you can volunteer. So that's that for a thought. Anything else from folks? That being the case, then I would point out as we conclude that we will be heading into another executive session following this meeting. This again is for a quasi judicial deliberation. And if there is no other comment from council, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. To head into exec. See, I asked about reports. Did I not ask about reports? I asked about reports. I gave you the report option. You said nothing, but I will come back to you for reports before we adjourn.
I didn't have my agenda.
This is
I didn't
not
have my
my fault,
agenda.
I say.
Okay, this gives you my couple minutes.
I would never deny you your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my mayor's report. As it reported to me, I wish to inform council there were no unusual events and no serious crimes during the month of October 2021. Our officers responded to 834 calls of service, 8,333 year to date for services resulting in 19 arrests. 2 incidents occurred within the borough which were covered by the news media outlets, which the chief will address. 5 departments police vehicles logged 15,189 miles in the past 2 months. That was because no report was issued in September. The mileage difference was between that shown in August 31 through October 31. Chief Ronald Ackerley reported that the total amount of magisterial fines collected for the month of October 2021 was $577.59, bringing the year-to-date total to $6,191.04. The first incident took place on Friday, October 9, 2021 at 2:12 p.m. when officers were dispatched to McCready Road at Gill Road for a report of a male shot inside a vehicle. Officers arrived and have found victim unconscious, but not alert, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. The male was uncooperative with officers and refused to identify himself or the actors involved. During the investigation on scene, it was determined that the incident appeared to be drug-related, with suspected drugs, money, and a loaded firearm recovered from inside the victim's vehicle. It also appeared that the victim may have discharged his firearm as well during the incident. It is believed that the shooting occurred during a random encounter in traffic between the actors and the victim, who apparently knew each other. Current condition of the victim is unknown, and the Allegheny County Police Homicide detectives continue to investigate. The second matter consists of a multitude of separate incidents occurring over several days at the Woodland Hills High School. Physical altercations between several students, as well as ongoing threats and harassment, led to the closure of school to in-person learning and a transition to virtual learning on Thursday, October 21st, 2021, and Friday, October 22nd, 2021. And again on Thursday, October 28th, and Friday, October 29th. Borough Council, Mayor Gamrat, and Chief Ackley had a brief informational meeting with the Superintendent Harris and school administrators where we all assured all matters were being taken seriously and stiff disciplinary actions were taken. Several students also faced summary criminal charges stemming from some of the incidents. School administration, staff, and the Churchill Police Department will continue to work closely in an effort to ensure a safe and productive learning environment for both students and staff. Progress continues for the Allegheny County LEAD program, excuse me, which is a law enforcement assistant version, with several meetings and training sessions being held for both law enforcement personnel as well as elected officials through our month of October. These meetings and training will continue for the next several months until the initiation of the program, excuse me, which is slated for early 2022. This is a long one. This Halloween, residents of Churchill were finally able to enjoy a somewhat normal trick-or-treat festivities despite the chilly and somewhat damp evening. Most areas of the borough saw a successful turnout of costume-clad trick-or-treaters going door to door. Officers on duty reported all went well with no incidents to report. I would like to thank Ralph Zatlin and the Churchill Volunteer Fire Department for being visible and adding to the safety of the evening. Details and other related statistics concerning the police department during the month of October 2021 are reported on the attached police department reports. I have one more thing. Well, actually, two more things. This is a note from the Wilkins Township addressed to the mayor and administration of the borough. It says, "We greatly appreciate your participation in the Wilkins Township Bicentennial Parade. It was so great to see the community together. Thank you for your help. The township had a great day. Best, the Bicentennial Committee." One last note, I have reached the 300 mark in delivering welcome packets to new residents in the borough. So that's a milestone. Thank you for it.
Thanks.
No worries, and thank you for what you do. I think it's an important part of being us. You know, I won't push too hard in the date of 1934, which I had to look up real quick, just to remind folks of the date that Churchill seceded from Wilkins. Just saying, yeah, we love our Wilkins partners. I will say that, but I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. So, outside of that, is there anything else that we have going on other than my secession talk to inflame things? I tell you. All right, hearing nothing, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We will head into, as I said, an executive session to address quasi-judicial deliberation.
So moved.
Second.
All righty, game, set, match. We will check everybody later. We all get to stay. You all get to go do whatever else you were doing. So have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us.